Good evening to all our viewers and Happy New Year. Happy 2025. I hope this year is great to everybody out there. Welcome to the 11th episode of the Alberta First Pension Plan online town hall. My name is Kerry Lambert, host of the Chris Kerry Show, and I'll be your host for this evening's town hall. Alberta First Pension Plan is a grassroots initiative of concerned Albertans who want to educate all Albertans on the benefits of an Alberta pension plan. Our goal is to collect 270,000 plus names and contact information. And once that's done, we will begin to collect signatures within a 90-day window and present it to our Alberta provincial government and initiate a referendum on our Alberta pension plan. And then you, Albertans, get to choose whether you want an Alberta pension plan or not. We are not affiliated with any political party or lobbyist group. We rely on donations and volunteers to get our message of an Alberta pension plan out to everybody. Please consider volunteering and donating. You can go to our website to find out more, and our website is albertafirstpension.ca. And you can even get more information. You can email us at info@albertafirstpension.ca as well. Hide that stuff right there. Tonight's topic is, a lot has happened since we last did our last town hall. We did our last town hall October 29th. So if you remember back then, we hadn't even had our UCP AGM yet. There was no, the Bill of Rights hadn't even been presented. And there was also a US election. And whether or not that comes into play, I think is definitely worth a bit of a discussion. But tonight's topic is, according to Canada's chief actuary, Assia Billig, who published a report on December 23rd, 2024, she believes that Alberta would be entitled to less money from the Canada Pension Plan than was estimated in the Lifeworks report released by the province in 2023. As a quick catch-up, I'm just going to jump over to here and show you the Lifeworks report. If you haven't watched or if you haven't viewed our town hall video series in the past, this is going to be just a quick catch-up for everybody. This is in response to a recommendation by the Fair Deal panel. The Alberta Treasury Board and Finance contracted Lifeworks to prepare an analysis of the costs, benefits, and structure of a potential Alberta pension plan. When the Lifeworks report came out in August of 2023, that calculation was that the Canadian Pension Plan asset transfer amount would be as high as $334 billion. That number was to be looked into and reported back to Alberta in 2024, which it did. It just made it in December 23rd. And that's the report from Assia Billig that we'll be talking about tonight. During this series on the Alberta pension, we have discussed that even if we didn't get any money back from the CPP, we'd still be better off with our own Alberta pension plan, since right now we over-contribute between $3 to $5 billion each year, which is more than enough to start and continue our own APP. And tonight we have Tanner Hnidey, who's an economist, and Mitch Sylvestre, who is head of the Alberta First Pension Plan, on our panel. This is a live town hall, so we encourage you to ask questions and make comments throughout this presentation. Just put 3 question marks before your questions so it can be flagged. And if you can, please share. And with that, I will bring on Tanner and Mitch. Good evening, gentlemen. Happy New Year to you.
Hey, Kerry, how are you?
I'm good. Tanner. It's been a busy couple of months, so busy that we haven't even been able to do another one of these town halls. But as we did at the end of October, we kind of exhausted the questions and concerns that most people had. But it was the big question of what was the number that the feds were going to come back with. And in the end, the number was a non-number. Tanner, do you want to maybe get into a little bit of that?
Sure. Yeah, you're right. It was a non-number, which isn't entirely surprising, to be honest. It would have been surprising if they would have given us a number, because whenever government says something, you can usually plan on them doing completely the opposite. Yeah. And so when government said, we'll get you a number by fall, it was almost a guarantee we weren't going to get a number by fall, which clearly happened, especially with all that's going on with Trudeau and the Liberal government and the NDP party and so on and so on. Yep. So what we got instead was basically a big report of fluff, which everyone's already talked about and knows, and not much has changed with the discourse. Government is still pretty, quiet about the entire matter. And of course, the report itself says that, Alberta is entitled to less than what Lifeworks has determined we're entitled to. That's also to be expected. It's government. They want to keep as much money in the Canadian pension plan as possible. But nevertheless, yeah, I didn't find much surprising about it whatsoever.
Mitch, did you want to comment on any of that?
Well, the funniest part about it is that she said she believes that that's what it is. She didn't tell us what it is. So she actually said nothing, more fluff like, I'll agree with Tanner. But it actually made me go back to read the formula. I actually called you yesterday and said, hey, would you send me that formula again just so I can see? And it's just as clear today as it was before. As far as I'm concerned, there's no way out of it for them. And I think they know that. And I think that's why there's no number. And in actual fact, I think there's 2 years interest and plus another $6 billion in extra payment from Alberta to be added to the number that was originally presented to us. So I don't think we're any further behind. I think that something that we're still going to pursue. It's still going to be a great big win for the province of Alberta, no doubt about it, in every way. Like just taking the power away from the people in the East is going to be a big deal for people here. There's lots of talk through the Trump beginning of his administration. The premier's threatened twice that if we get a tariff on Alberta oil, it's going to affect the sovereignty of the country. It's going to affect the country as far as unity is concerned. So if that's the case, she really believes that, then bringing the pension plan home would be a prudent first step.
Wow. You're right. Like this is not just let's give me the money and we're done with it. There's everything else that's packaged in this. Right. And it's a little concerning, I guess, in terms of, because the big comments that we get all the time is, well, I've got relatives in New Brunswick that rely on the pension plan that we subsidize, because they acknowledge that they understand that is actually happening. And if we end up bringing it in back home and we're not subsidizing it to the rest of the Canada, so what happens to that?
Well, we're giving them transfer payments. Maybe you can pull some of it out of there.
So Alberta not only over contributes in pension, it basically does the equalization payment. You could say we over contribute because we get nothing back on it. And then don't we also over contribute in employment insurance?
Yeah. I've understood that to be about $1 billion a year. Don't quote me on that though.
Yeah.
Actually, that came up at one of our town halls from a former minister of the Conservative government here in Alberta. He said they knew it all along, but they just didn't have the courage to call it back.
Wow.
While we're calling the pension plan back, I think that takes more courage than calling the EI back. So, see, the beauty of this whole thing is that tacking on to that conversation about an independent Alberta, which the premier threatened. Once we're collecting pension, then it's easy. It's the next step for us to collect taxes because we'll have everybody's address and everybody will be paying in already.
You're right.
And then the next step to that is going to be collect our own EI. So, in the big picture, it would make us more sovereign. It would give us more leverage. We wouldn't have to worry about as much nonsense from the East as what they continue to throw at us like every day.
Because I just want to clarify exactly how the equalization payments work, right? Because my understanding is that because we don't do our own taxation, all the money goes through Ottawa first, and then they trickle it back to the provinces. Is that correct?
Tanner, you got that.
That's right. Yeah, it's not as though Alberta sends its money right to New Brunswick. It goes to the feds, and then the feds divvy out according to their formula.
So how does that work for pension as well? So obviously, pension is, we'll call it for what it is. It really is a payroll tax, right? Because everybody that makes money has to give into the CPP as well as their employer. And so that money ends up going to Ottawa, and then it's redistributed to the provinces. But we actually over contribute. That's why we don't get our fair share back. Or I guess we do get our fair share. We just don't get any more back, do we?
Right. Yeah. The formula. So yeah, you're right. The way the CPP works is it takes money from your paycheck, from you and your employer. The only way out of it, or one of the only ways out of it, is to be self-employed. But you get taxed on your paychecks, and that CPP tax, you're right, that is what it is, goes to the Canadian Pension Plan coffers. And then according to a formula that exists for all provinces except Quebec, who isn't in the Canadian Pension Plan. That money is doled out according to what pensioners are entitled to receive. And so in Alberta, where we're younger and earn a bit more money, than other provinces, and work a bit more than other provinces on the average, we don't receive back as much as we put into the pension every year. That's quite correct. Yeah, and it's been that way for a long time. It's been that way for the whole of the CPP's history, except for a string of like 7 years in the 90s. That's it.
And when you say that we don't get as much money back or however it is, I just want to clarify that. So if I'm 60 years old and I've contributed for so long, and then I decide to opt into CPP, I'm still getting my money back.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
So even though it's not my own pool of money put away for something, it really is the money goes in and then it comes back out again. And it pays basically the retirees already who have already retired.
That's right. That's just it. So, whether you, if you're entitled to $1,000 every month from CPP, when you retire, you're going to get that $1,000, whether you live in Alberta or BC or New Brunswick or Ontario, right?
Or elsewhere. Yeah.
Or elsewhere. Your location.
You can be down in Mexico and still get
That's
that.
right. That's right. Your location doesn't matter. That's right. Yeah. But so when we talk about Alberta disproportionately paying into the CPP, we just mean that we pay a lot of money into the CPP right now and have for, again, almost the whole of our history. And we don't receive near as much of it back because we're younger, because we're wealthier, and because we work more on the average than other provinces. Yeah.
Now, would there ever be a danger? We've covered this before in a couple of town halls, but just as a catch up, would there ever be a danger of having our younger population leave or not being able to make as much money and being able to put into the over amount that we usually do every year for CPP? Would there ever be that danger?
Well, that's the whole point of the CPPs and an Alberta pension plan for that matter too. That's the whole purpose of that asset pile. So, you're right. As much as the CP brings in, or almost as much as the CPP brings in every year, it ships out. But that little bit that's left over, it invests, and then it builds up a big pile of assets. Yeah. So that if the CPP, or if Canada was ever in a state where, the CPP wasn't bringing in enough money to pay pensioners every year, like it will be in the next few years, it can just pull from that asset pile and pay out the rest that way. So there are securities built into the process, and it would be that way with an APP too, right? You wouldn't just year by year hope to heaven that your workers were making enough money to support your pensioners, your retirees. No, instead you'd build up an asset pile here in Alberta too. And the longer that went on, the bigger the pile would be. And, the more secure the pension would be.
So that brings something up that we should talk about, Tanner, because in a couple of years, the asset pile is going to be going down.
Right. Yes, it depends how much is pulled out. You're right. In a couple of years, I think it's 2026, the CPP will start pulling from the asset pile because, they won't be bringing in enough money just on workers alone to pay for retirees, right? A lot of boomers are retiring. Canada's getting older. We're not having near as many children as we used to. And so there's a strain being put on the pension. And more than that, we have to take it on trust that the CPP's reports about how valuable their assets are is true. Now, some economists would say, oh yeah, do it for sure. Have good faith in that. I'm not so sure. I'm not as trusting of government entities and bureaucratic entities. I'd like to see a far more frequent and transparent report and audit on exactly what the CPP has in assets, how much money those assets are worth according to what we could get our hands on, and how easily it is to liquefy those assets if needed. Right. And so it's just this institution is turned into a lot of trust government, trust big bureaucracy to supply for your needs. And I don't. And I think it's very foolish to trust any bureaucracy, conservative, liberal, NDP or otherwise, with something so important as our retirement, even if it's just a portion of our retirement.
Well, we're seeing firsthand the last 4 years how we shouldn't trust government.
Yes.
They're openly lying to us and everybody knows it. They're not answering questions in Parliament, and they literally shut it down, so they don't have to answer questions. There's talk of foreign interference with government, and I don't know. There's a word for that, and everybody's avoiding it, but there is a word for that, and so obviously there's a lot of malfeasance going on there. So how can we possibly trust these people when they keep showing us day after day after day that we cannot trust them? And yet we're talking about $565 billion here, or whatever's in that asset pile. You know, and it makes me wonder, actually, I'm questioning how much of it is actually there. So I'm going to go with you on that, Tanner.
So I just called up the cppinvestment.com website. They're the ones that actually take care of the CPP investment. And this is the magic number they've got now, is 675 billion. So I think when we started doing this last February, now granted, we only did the town halls, but it was around 660 some odd thousand. So let's say it's gone up another 12,000, which is
12 billion.
Or 12 billion, pardon me, which would be another, well, what percentage of that? That's 10%? Well, 5%, I guess. So either way, I mean, 675. So if we're entitled to what was 334 billion, and of course we actually ended up doing a fundraising effort. We'll get to that in a minute too, on a drive to 335, because at that point, you know, obviously we're making some interest on it. So 334, 335 doesn't really matter. We're actually over that 335 for sure. Like we'd probably be more like 345.
Well, we should be from when that report was done, we should be $6 billion over and just over contributing more. Than we're taking. Yeah.
Actually, here it's 3.6% is that's what Q2.
Yeah, that's a long ways from 9.8 though, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, which what they're saying they were getting, and that's what everybody says. How can we blow up a plan?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that difficult to blow up a plan that takes $3.6 billion. That makes 3.6%. Yeah. And actually, what I read here just recently, it's the last 4, 5, 6 years is closer to 2.5%.
Yeah. So maybe
just one final comment. They're paying themselves 1.5% to administer it, and they're giving us 2.5%.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So just do the math on 675 billion times 1.5% administration fee, and that's a guarantee. That's interesting to me.
Even at, yeah, you're right. That's 1% is 6 billion.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite the administrative fee. But again, that's based on the asset pool. Now, is that? I'm just kind of thinking, like, if you have stock, and maybe I'm a little bit off, but let's just say you have $1,000 in stock, and that stock goes up to double, right? So now it's at 2,000. You don't really pay any fees on that until you sell it, right? So is that kind of the same idea with this asset pool for the pension? Like they wouldn't actually make any additional money on that until they actually sell the assets, would they not?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not as though the CPP has $675 billion just sitting in cash. Right. You're right. It's a lot of it is asset, and whether it be real estate or energy investment or what might have you, right? A lot of it is, it's not as though we're just sitting on almost $700 billion of cash. But I think, even more to the point, we talk about this a lot at events, and I think rightfully so. All of these pundits will discuss how financially secure the CPP is and how much money it's making and how there's this big pile of, hundreds of billions of dollars and fantastic. Yeah. But I never found that to be as convincing an argument to stay in the CPP, precisely because I don't see it. Like, what do I care whether my mutual fund advisor and his little investment firm is sitting on a huge pile of cash or not? Sure, it's nice for security, and that's fair enough. We need some security. But if I never see that money, which most seniors never will, right? It's not as though the CPP is handing out huge checks every single month to retirees. What does it matter? Like if the CPP is earning 100% rate of return 1 year or 10% rate of return 1 year, my check when I retire stays the same. So as far as I'm concerned, that's practically a moot point. Like you can talk about security and how because we have a big asset pile, or if a pension plan has a big asset pile in reserve, then seniors are guaranteed their checks should something happen for a little while. Fine, fair enough. But as far as Albertans are concerned, we never see that money, right? We never see that. CPP talks about 20% rates of return, or it's 10% or 9%, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
doesn't make a difference. In my life, I don't care whether they're earning 50 or 40 or 30% or 20 or 10 or 5% rates of return, because my check stays the same. I want to get my check. That's fair enough. But it's not as though the CPP's rate of return on their investment determines how large my check is. It doesn't.
Would that be a fairer way to do this, though? Like, review it every year and say, well, this year it went up by 15%, but next year it's down by 5%. Would that be fair, that you always have a minimum, and when you maybe go over that everybody gets a check at the end?
That's a good question. Yeah, right. The main issue with that question, and it's a good one, is that the CPP doesn't run like a typical pension or investment, right?
Right.
It's not as though with my mutual funds or whatever it might be, my payouts are tied to how well the fund does. If it makes money, I make money. If it loses money, I also lose money. Fair enough. Yeah. CPP doesn't work like that, right? You get money whether they make money or not. Whether the CPP earns a 5 or 10% rate of return on its investment, you're still earning the same amount, because your returns, your checks, aren't tied to the CPP's performance.
That's right.
So would it be more fair? Well, from a private market standpoint, yeah, except we don't choose to go into CPP. We're forced into it. So that adds another layer of complexity as well. Yeah. That's a good question. Good question. My guess is if you ask 10 different guys, you'd get 10 different answers.
And of course, if it's sitting out in Ottawa through the CPP Investment Board, they're just doing the investments. They're not the group that actually distributes the money, right? That is a government-run program that you get your checks from. The CPP Investment Board only takes whatever is left over after paying everybody, and that's what they invest. So in the end, if it's and maybe you'll know the numbers, but is the payout like $60 billion a year out to Canadians?
Yeah, it's in that neighborhood. Yes, you're close. It'd give or take a few billion, but it's in that. It's a nice round number. Let's use that.
Okay, so let's say it's actually 65, so they end up getting $5 billion extra per year. That's the money that goes to the CPP Investment Board, and they can invest that.
That's right. That's right.
And so obviously they want to maximize as much as that is. And if it goes into this big giant asset pool, which is now at 670 billion, that's such a big number.
Yeah. Oh, it's you can't comprehend how large that is.
No, that's right. So speaking of such a large number, because the number did not come back from Ottawa in Assia Billig's report, then they ended up kind of throwing it out to another economist, Trevor Toome, who is at the University of Calgary here. Yeah. And he basically came back with a number that was much less than our 334 billion. And it was somewhere around 120, 180 billion, somewhere in there. Yeah. That's still a big number.
It's a huge number.
What could we do with that? Like, if we said, you know what, okay, we're really pushing for 334, but if they can only give us 180, then let's take the 180. And obviously we wouldn't, because that's not the way you negotiate. But let's just say we took the 180. What would that do for Albertans?
Right. Well, so I read Toome's paper. Yeah, he was like, I went to the U of C. I don't think I ever had him as a prof. Okay. I didn't, but I saw him around and so on. And his work, he does a lot of public policy work, and the paper is, it's well documented. It's a neutral paper. Like, he just provides the facts on the pension, the information, and then he talks about that section 113. And the reason Toome's number is lower than Lifeworks is because Toome believes we ought to interpret a specific word in section 113 differently than how Lifeworks interprets it. The word is derived. That section 113 talks about, maybe more specific, in the formula for how much money a province is to receive should it leave the Canadian Pension Plan. Mm-hmm. There is a term in that formula which talks about deriving. There it is. Yeah, go to part B or C. B. There it is. B. Yeah. So it's the regulation referred to derived from the contributions referred to in paragraph A. And so TOOM has a discussion about what it means to be derived from the contributions. And the discussion happens because the CPP didn't start investing as it is today until the late 90s, right? Until it was discovered that they needed to start investing lest they basically blow up and go broke. So they changed the way they did business, and they started investing in the investments that we now know today. But this adds a layer of confusion into this formula, right? Ought we to understand the formula in light of looking at the pension as though Alberta could invest or could have invested as the CPP is investing today since the 60s? Or should we look at it as just really as it is historically? And so TOOM says we should take it on that term. Lifeworks says, no, we should take it on a different term. And so their numbers are different, and they're different by a lot. But you'll notice that at the end of TOOM's paper, even TOOM's paper, he says that even with his numbers that are lower than Lifeworks, the Alberta Pension Plan financially is still an advantage. It's still an advantage. Now, he says it's more moderate than what Lifeworks is proposing. His advantages are nowhere near as high as what Lifeworks' advantages propose, precisely because TOOM's numbers are lower than what Lifeworks generates. But nevertheless, he says there's still a financial benefit. Now, he talks about risks, investing risks and all of those very exciting things that economists love to talk about. But nevertheless, right, I want to, really structure that point or focus on that point. It's at the end of it's at his conclusion. Yeah. He says, there is still a financial benefit to be, go up one more, I think. One more. I think so, yeah. There is still a financial benefit that can be captured. So, all that to say, even if the number isn't 335 or 350, whatever it might be, it's not as though Alberta would be in a worse position if the payout were quote unquote only 200 billion or 250 or 150, what might have you. The numbers would look a little different, but we'd still be in an advantageous position. And that's not only true financially, but it's true politically as well. And I think that we have to focus on those other sides of the argument. This is not just about finances. You're right. An Alberta Pension Plan is not just about economics. It's about so much more than that, especially with the latest, revelations that we've been hearing about in the current government in Ottawa right now and across the border. This is about so much more than just money, right? There's political effects. There are social effects, there are provincial effects, and so on and so on.
Yeah, with that kind of money, though, you have to be aware that even 180 billion, getting to your point, that's 30 years of that's 30 years of pension that we've got built up without earning another penny in interest or payment to that. So if you add the $9 billion a year that we're saying, we would be way further ahead. And there's not a pensioner, nobody's going to live 30 years past the time to get their pension, because we generally die at 83. And then when you die, you can look forward to paying 55% in estate tax, which makes it even more interesting. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of security there. And further to your point, Tanner, we're not sure that the other security is actually there either. But the difference is that the federal government can, of course, the big advantage they have, they can print money.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't it amazing? They can print money, but they're still broke. It's crazy.
But you're right. I think all governments do exactly that.
That's just it. Imagine, you take 30+% of a man's income, more than that, every paycheck, and you're still broke, and you print money on top of that. Only a government could be so inefficient. There is no words.
I think inefficient is the wrong word.
Yeah.
I think we see government corruption at every level. I think we better stop thinking that they're stupid and give them a little bit more credit than that, and just say, well, you know what? Nobody could be that inept. So I would suggest that we have to look a little deeper than that.
So, Mitch, where do we go from here? Because we've got this non-number back, and obviously, even if they did come back and say, this is the actual number we'll give you, what is the next step after that? The
process stays the same. For us, got to go try and get our signatures. We got to get 335,000 signatures and force a referendum on the pension plan. That's what we can do. I mean, that's basically what our path is. That's all we can do. So let's accomplish that. We're making gains in that. I think it's becoming more and more realizable every day. We're starting on. We've got a couple events this month. One in Castor and one in Sylvan Lake. So I don't know the dates. 25th is one of them.
Yeah, 23rd and the 25th. We get the posters up on the website, and we've actually been reached. A lot of other people have reached out to us in terms of availability and trying to schedule stuff into February. So that part I know is not up on the website yet, but for those people that are watching, please check albertafirstpension.ca. And you can almost check it daily because there always seems to be something that's updated. I know people were saying that it didn't look like anything was done for a little while it was Christmas, and really everything was shut down, right? I mean, nothing was happening government-wise. And so now we're back into a brand new year, and we're doing meetings, and we're getting our volunteers active, as well as maybe you want to just talk a little bit about donations, Mitch.
Yeah, I think we're at the point now where we've got enough people that we can get everybody to do just a little bit, and we can win. If everybody that we've got an Alberta First Pension list gave us $20, we could probably get this over the top very easily. So, I mean, it's basically going to require effort from every single person, whether they attend a meeting, get a person to sign, or give us a little bit of money. And we're not asking for gobs of money. We're talking about 2 or 3 cups of coffee here. And what we could do with that would be unbelievable, I think.
Yeah.
And so we've gone on to our websites, and we've asked people, we've sent emails, we've asked people, we're going to organize fundraising events to get that done, because it basically costs us to get every signature. We've worked it out to about 40-50 cents a signature. So you can do the math. We need a couple 100,000 signatures. So we're going to need $100,000, $120,000 to get this over the top. And then after that, we're going to need money to get the signatures, because everybody's aware that once we get a commitment from you, which is what we're doing now, then we have to go around and get signatures. But the other thing that it's going to do is it's going to give us a large group of people to get in contact with to do all manner of other things. So this may be just the first part of this project. We discussed EI before. Maybe we could, once we have this number of people and everybody engaged, there's not much limit to what we can accomplish, I don't think. I think we can get EI back. I think we can make other changes as they come along, because it seems to me that there's stuff comes up every day, and all of us that are responsible conservatives could probably make some changes now that our conservative government is in power, and we have the opportunity to do so.
So I'm not quite sure what else we want to discuss on this, because it seems that the number is pretty clear of what we need in order to get this thing done. We are reaching out for volunteers. We're reaching out for donations. Donations, like, another question that's come up is, so what do we need donations for?
Well, it costs us $2,500 a month for our nation builder.
Just for our website, the database.
And,
you're right.
And it costs a lot of money to put these town halls on. It costs money to get people there. I'm in a position where I put 60,000 kilometers on my truck since last March. None of that's accounted in there, and I'm not going to take any payment for that. But the idea is that I'm not in the same position as everybody, and so what happens is that when we need money for everything. We need money to go on Facebook. We need money to go on TikTok. We need money to run emails. We need money to organize. Basically, that's what it is. And the beauty of it is we're not asking for a whole bunch of money from anybody. If everybody gives us $20 or $25, $30, $40, whatever they can afford, that would be nice. And then away you go. It's not like, and here's the other thing I like to say. So just for example, if we have an Alberta pension, and just on the basis of the fact that we collect $9 billion a year and pay out $6 That'll allow us to give everybody a 40% increase in pay, just without doing any of that, depending on what the number is for the big number.
Yeah.
So if just say we go down that path, we'd be talking about $3,200 a year per senior. So if you live for 20 years, you could possibly be looking at $65,000 in net gain to you. This is the only thing that you can give money to that you're definitely going to get money back.
For really a $20 investment.
If we win this, it's going to be a big net win for every Alberta senior, and plus big net win for the province. It's going to generate way more funds than hundreds of times more funds than what you donate to us, even if you donate a big number.
There you go. So the quick synopsis is, for a $20 donation, you could get $3,200 a year more, or whatever.
Yeah, for 20 years. So for $20, you can $60,000 ROI. What do you think of that, Tanner?
That's not bad. And
here's my money.
That's just it. Even I would be open and excited to give you some cash.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be checking the donation list, Tanner, to see if you make it on there.
You'll have to keep me to my word. That'll be good. But it's true. Like there's a benefit to gain, and it's government doesn't want us to gain it because they see, as far as Ottawa is concerned, there's a loss, and it's not just. Again, we can look at the finances, which are so important, but when you factor in all those other benefits as well, it's really so much higher than what we estimate it to be.
Yeah. So even with us as employees donating, and we can see, it's great to give $20 and we end up getting a ridiculous amount of money, and hopefully in the end. What about businesses? Because businesses, aren't they in the same sort of position? They have to match the employee contributions. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine the businesses would stand to gain from this as well, by probably not either investing in as much, or maybe do they get anything back in the end?
Are you asking me as a businessman, or Tanner?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Well,
I wouldn't. Personally, I'm okay with matching CPP. I'd rather give it to the old people. But as it depends how we structure it. And that's the other thing that it'll allow us to do. It'll allow us to structure it so that it can be a benefit to everybody. It doesn't have to all be one thing. It can be a combination of many things. We could reduce contributions. We could increase payments. We could do all that. It would give us opportunity to invest in Alberta if there was a sizable return, or a reasonable return would be the word I'd like to use for that. Yeah. And so it gives us lots of opportunity. Tanner, you want to jump on some of those?
No, I think you're dead on the mark. I think you're quite right. Of course, there is, if you can guarantee, which you would have to in order to leave the pension plan, the same benefit for seniors today, right, than what they're receiving right now. And if you can increase that benefit with an APP, by all means, great, while also cutting employee and employer taxes, why not do so? I don't understand. There really isn't an argument against it. It increases the quality of life for both employee and employer. It allows the employer, if he wishes, with that saved money, to reinvest in his business or hire more workers, or who knows, do with it what he pleases. And as a consequence, the society flourishes overall.
I guess that's it. Like I said, there's no argument against this that I can find.
No, that's right. So if people want to ask questions, just put 3 question marks before your question in the comments. I'm going to answer this one just because I feel like being that guy. Matthew says, do you have a number of signatures so far? Actually, the number of signatures is 0. And the reason is because we're actually just collecting contact information so far, aren't we? Or do we actually have signature pages, I guess?
Well, the signatures have to be within 90 days of the...
Within 90 days. So that's the important thing.
So we have actually no signatures.
That's right.
Do we have contacts? We have a lot of contacts.
I think we have over 50, maybe shy of 60,000 contacts. I believe that's the number.
Yeah.
That is a big number.
That is a big number.
Yeah. And it's only going to get bigger with as the year goes through and we have more events and we're able to do these town halls. So back, if you remember, back in the summer, all the way through to October, we did these town halls every 2 weeks. And we went through a lot of the questions. If people have not watched them, I do advise you, please just go back onto the website And you can go into the video section. I'll just call that back up here. Go on the website. Go. I'm gonna probably restructure some of this stuff, but if you go to the videos, you can actually go through. There's a lot of videos that we've actually posted on TikTok as well, just to get a few more viewerships out there. And it would, with all of this content, I mean, we did a 10 episode series, and you have to imagine they're at least an hour to an hour and a half each. That's a lot of content. We're looking at doing some quick, if there's even a way to do a quick video, but like maybe a quick half hour that we can actually synopsis. Is that a word that way? to summarize all this stuff, so that that maybe people can actually give a link out, and it doesn't take a couple of days of watching. I know it's funny how people will binge watch episodes of stuff on Netflix, but they won't binge watch any of this. And yet this is probably much more much more knowledge and much more education that they can pass on to everybody else, rather than just talking about the latest episode of Yellowstone.
You know what, Kerry? I think if we put our mind to that, I think we could do that in less than 10 minutes.
You think so? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
I really believe that if we really put our mind to it, 5 minutes would give them a really good idea of what's going on here.
Wow. Okay. Well, then
that would be really shareable. Actually, that's something we should talk about. I think it's a great idea.
Okay, well then that's exactly what we'll end up doing, and hopefully we can get something done before the end of January, and then filter that thing out, because I think, the videos that we've been putting out so far, even like I said on TikTok, they're about 2 or 3 minutes a piece. They usually do one quick topic, and I say TikTok, but I mean there are reels and stories. If anybody's in social media, they'll know it's from Facebook and Instagram and even Twitter. And I think a lot of that information can be shared, and people, especially in Alberta, should watch that stuff. I know we get comments from everybody across Canada, and it's amazing how many people from Ontario do agree with us, and yet on the other hand, they also say, please don't leave, because they're afraid of what's going to happen with their pension. And again, they can do exactly the same thing. I think there is a chart out there, I was looking for it earlier, that actually shows if Trevor Toombs' numbers were correct, what each province should be able to do, and or to basically take out of the CPP. So in other words, it wouldn't be a CPP; it would be a BC PP. It would be a Saskatchewan pension plan. It would be all of these provinces taking care of their stuff, their own. But I understand the idea behind Canada, and of course, I'm a Canadian, proud Canadian as well. Although in recent years, a little bit less. But I'm definitely probably a more proud Albertan than I am a Canadian at this moment. But that's just me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much the sentiment in the room.
I think so. Here's a couple of other questions here. Bonnie asks, is the CPPIB fund sustainable in the long haul? If it is, then why is there a CPP2 premium now?
That's a good question. And I think that's the answer to the question, right? That's funny, because Bonnie's right. So for years and years, we're told CPP is sustainable, and then all out of nowhere, we're told to keep it sustainable, we have to increase the contribution rate, which is really just what happened, right? They call it what do they call it? An enhancement or something like that. They use typical news speak to try and mask what the new tax really is, which is another tax. And so if government wants to keep things sustainable, instead of becoming more efficient, and instead of properly structuring these organizations, they just instead charge us more money. Yeah. That's the way it works. And so if in the future it should become unsustainable again, we'll just ramp up the cost, which is that is the anthem of this government, right? That's the anthem of most federal governments. If something is no longer working, we'll just tax people more. That's, it's true for healthcare. It's true for a lot of public policy. It's true for this, and it's an epidemic in Canadian government, and most governments for that matter around the world, but particularly here at home.
You're right. Bonnie asks, any plans for coming south? Recently found an inexpensive haul close to Coaldale. Well, that's great. Yes, by all means, you can get a hold of us at info at Alberta. I'll throw that up here. Give me a second. Info at albertafirstpension.ca, and let us know that you're interested in having us down there for an event. And we'll get Nicole and or Vicky to take a look and see what we can do down there and put together a schedule. I think that would be great. There was a couple of other questions here. Let me just see. Julie asks, but are they not agreeing with the amount owing to us if we get our own going?
Well, it would seem they're disagreeing with the $335 billion amount, and they're more looking at Toom's number for how much we're owed. They're not denying that we're owed money, but yeah, they're being suspiciously shy about exactly what amount we're owed is. Lots of vagueness, which I know I've said this a lot this podcast, but it's true. It's so typical of government to be intentionally vague. Like Mitch is right. We don't actually give Trudeau and his cackle enough credit. They are like they have an intention and they have an objective and they know how to achieve it. And we often call them, fools or what might have you. The truth is they're very calculated and they've been doing this for a very long time. And that's true for not only them, but also the bureaucracy that works around them. Mm-hmm. And so this refusal to provide an objective, real number when it comes to how much is Alberta owed from the pension is intentional. It's absolutely intentional.
It indicates to me how real the number is.
Yeah.
If the number was 100, they'd come out with 140. It makes me laugh. I watched a podcast with Mr. Toombs on it, and his closing comment was, we'll put this number out. It was 135 or 140 billion dollars to Alberta. So if 335 billion wouldn't do it, then they wouldn't do it for 335 billion. They're certainly not going to do it for 135 billion. And that leads me to think about other things.
Mm-hmm.
That leads me to think about, maybe I'd like to check to see if he's getting any payment from those people. That comment alone says something to me that I never thought before. Of course, I thought of it, and I was just wondering who that person would be. But maybe it would be in Mr. Toombs' best interest to champion that for the federal government to try and get us used to the idea that we're not going to get 335 billion. Actually, I think we should be going the other way. I think we should ask for 335 billion plus the next 2 years of contribution plus the interest. So I think we should do the conscious other thing and up the number, even if we use 2.5 or 3% of interest. They said 2.5% is what they're getting, so we can tack $8 or $10 billion a year onto that number just by using 2.5 plus our $3 billion over contribution.
Oh, by all means, negotiate.
A motion that we go to 355.
Negotiate as hard as possible. By all means, we're sick and even what we've seen over the last few weeks. I'm sick and tired of seeing these governments they're so weak. Like they just exercise this. Although they have just horrendous aims that they want for the country, there's no doubt that they're morally weak, and when it comes to negotiating and acting like true leaders, very weak. Sick of it. So yeah, negotiate hard. Why would we not? Why would we not push for what's ours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Julie follows up and says, will we still be able to go ahead if it's less? And I think we could actually start from zero. Realistically. I mean, it would be a little more difficult to do that. But we could, because if we over contribute, like if we don't or donate, if we contribute $9 billion and we only get $6 billion back on average. I mean, there are certain years that are higher and lower, but let's just say that, then we basically would be able to keep $3 billion and do something with that. So the first year, let's just say it takes $1 billion to do the infrastructure to get this thing up and running. That's it. Like we're still ahead of the game doing it that way, right from zero. And then every year would be still another 3 billion or another 5 billion or whatever it works out to be. The difference with having this giant asset pool is it gives you a really, really big cushion. If we do have a year where they say, you know what, there's actually no oil and gas production this year, that's it, we're all just going to freeze, then we are still able to give CPP amounts to retirees.
But you know, I think you go ahead, Jen. I'll go first here.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, Julie's question it's a good one. Would we still be able to go ahead if it's less? But to be entirely honest, Julie, I think this is probably we get it often, but I don't know that it really matters so much. Firstly, because even the most radical of government members right now recognize and admit that Canada is owed something. Like even in this chief actuary report, they said, not Canada, Alberta is owed something, right? Yeah. Even in this actuary report, it was admitted that yes, Alberta is owed a specific sum of money. So really no one, not even the most anti-APP advocates and activists, are saying that Alberta's owed nothing. We know that we're owed something. And secondly, if government and bureaucracy really did, if Alberta tried to leave, if they really did say to us, yeah, you're getting absolutely nothing from the CPP or from the asset pile, as far as I'm concerned, it would be all the more reason to leave the CPP, right? If government would be so brash as to try and pull a stunt like that, and we know government is very brash, then it would all but guarantee in our minds, and we already know it, that their interests are not particularly our own, and they do not have our best desires at heart. They wouldn't have any intention to really provide for seniors. It would be shown that the CPP would be would be being used for something much more like keeping Canadians in check to what government wants. So it's a good question, but to be entirely honest, it doesn't have a lot of bearing on the conversation when you look at it from that frame of reference.
Yeah. Well, I want to add to that, Tanner. So the number they're giving us is the very smallest number that they think we're going to get. That's where Mr. Toombs is at. Mr. Toombs is at, that's the least that you can expect from my perspective. The Lifeworks report was done by Morneau Chappelle. So Bill Morneau was former finance minister for the government. He came up with $335 billion. Here's the scary part for government. They're going to have to negotiate a number that if they don't want to go to court, is something that they can live with. Because they may lose the whole damn thing. Because there's a really good chance that the guy that did that knows what he's talking about. He was finance minister for the country, and he's been writing these kind of reports forever. And we kind of have our own in-house actuary who said they absolutely owe every penny of it. Yeah. And the other thing is, unconfirmed reports tell us that they've gone to 2 or 3 more actuaries, and they've come up with the same $335 billion number. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, they understand that. And these are apparently actuaries that they hired themselves. So they actually understand that that's the case. So here's the problem. The thing is that they're going to be put in a position where they're going to have to say, well, you know what, if Alberta pulls the pin on this, maybe we can save ourselves 60 or 70 billion, which is what I think is going to be the way it's going to turn out. We're going to offer Alberta 270 or 275 billion. And at that point, slam dunk no brainer. It's a slam dunk no brainer really at 140 billion.
Yeah. Wow. Elaine asks, is it possible to obtain numbers on monthly CPP contributions from Alberta to the fund versus the payout of CPP? In other words, can we have that number so that we know we are contributing 9 billion and only getting back 6 billion? I think that's the question.
Well, I've seen the annual reports, of course. I don't know if I've seen it broken down monthly yet, but you would just take that number and basically divide it by 12. Give or take a little bit, depending on how much a man works in a month and so on. So you could. The numbers are available. Lifeworks has them most easily accessible, but you can also find them on stats pages across the internet. As exciting as that research is.
I will actually take a look and see if I can find it, and then post the link on our website under the links section. Which again, just to go up here, just go to links, and on there's just a lot of stuff. There's all the different reports that have come out. Some stuff in the news. Some other articles, and actually that's one thing I should probably have posted the link to that one, or actually there's so many windows here. That's the one that I probably should post in there. That way people have a quick way to find that. So yes, I will take a look at that and get right on that. So
the number is $500 million that we pay in $750 million a month, and our seniors are paid $500 million a month. It's basically to round it off. That's
okay. Yeah. Vicky asks, do we have to use AIMCO? In other words, when the money comes back to, or the assets come back to Alberta, do we actually have to use the existing infrastructure? Do we have to use AIMCO, or could we use some other group?
Yeah, no, we don't have to. We can use a different group if we wanted.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a good question. And we talk about it more in the events, but we don't have to use AIMCO. There's no law that says you have to use, Alberta's Investing Management Corporation. You don't have to.
That is one of the big comments that we get all the time too. Is, so I'm not, Alberta's screwed up a bunch of stuff with the Heritage Fund, and I don't want to deal with AIMCO and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, then get involved and make sure that it doesn't go to AIMCO, and make sure it doesn't just go into government. Make sure that it's another group that's at, we joked about this being arm's length, more like a football field's length away from government, so that we don't run into this situation that may even be happening in Ottawa right now.
So I really honestly believe, if you're going to talk about AIMCO, that the real reason they brought Stephen Harper in is so it would give people a little bit more confidence in AIMCO. But a group, you're right, Kerry, you alluded to the fact, a group of the size that we're going to need to make this happen will be able to have a very large influence on what happens to it as well.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think we kind of accomplished what we wanted to talk about tonight. Any final words until we do our next town hall? Because it seems like there's always something to be talking about, and maybe a couple of weeks from now we'll be doing another town hall that's based on something that we can't even think of right now.
I'm
Mitch,
good. It was good. It's keep pushing. It's none of these reports are really unexpected, to be honest. We knew that government and those surrounding the federal government would try and are going to try and work their hardest to make an APP seem as unappealing as possible.
Yeah.
But we just have to keep pushing, not only for this, but also in all other areas of what's ours.
True.
Please get used to the idea that you have to help out. It doesn't have to be a lot, but everybody has to pull. If we all pull, if we grab that rope and all pull in one direction, it's going to make a huge difference. People say, what can I do? I'm just one vote, or I'm just by myself. Well, if you start multiplying that by 50 or 60,000 people, which is where we're at now, you just, if nobody gives anything, then nothing happens. But if everybody gives even $5 or $10, that's going to be a huge difference for us, massive difference for us. So and just be aware that everybody's got to get the idea that they have to do their part to help out. Nobody's exempt from this. We're spending hundreds and hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars doing it ourselves. But we do need your $20. We do need you to sign somebody else. We do need your help. Yeah. It's astounding to me that this isn't already done. This is such a one-sided deal. It's astounding to me that it's not done. And the only reason it's not done is because everybody's of the opinion, and I know this because I talked to enough people. Well, I didn't sign it yet because I didn't, because I thought I would do it later.
Yeah.
But we're past that now. Now we need it done as fast as we can get it done. And the people are saying, well, I don't want to contribute because I don't want to be on a list. Well, if you're contributing $20 or $30, you'll probably be under the radar. Just saying, nobody's going to be checking our list for every $20 contribution.
No, that's true too. Rhonda asks, has the door-to-door started?
No.
We have not done door-to-door knocking just to promote the idea of the Alberta Pension Plan, nor have we started to do signatures, because we basically need to get the 300,000 plus contact list before we can actually go forward and start banging on doors to get signatures. And we say banging on doors, but it probably won't even be in that sort of a situation. We may say, if you've signed up for this already, meet us at this community center at this time and date, or meet us at a school, or there's a bunch of different venues. Maybe we'll do it at a mall. It'd be great to be able to go and bang on doors, but again, we need quite the army in order to actually bang on 300,000 doors. Although it'd probably end up being more like 200,000 actual doors to do that. Either way, to do that within 90 days is quite the task. But by having the contact information that makes our life a little bit easier, because then we'll be able to call you, we'll be able to text you, we'll be able to go to your door and get you to sign the proper form at that time. So good question there, Rhonda. And even Yvonne asked the same thing: is the volunteers going door to door yet? No. So
can I touch on that? That's something we're discussing.
Yes.
That's not something we're going to do in January and February, though. But I mean, it's definitely something we've discussed. We've got other options now where we've gotten considerably bigger here just recently. So we're going to have way more volunteers. So we're breaking the province up into CAs, and we're going to start attacking the province CA by CA. So just that we're, that's not something that we're not able to do. It's something that we've been discussing, and something that we are able to do, and something that we may do.
Yeah, excellent. As well as phone calls, right? Because even with that, if you've put your name into the contact list, we can call you in theory. And the other thing too is, and we've touched on this briefly, is if we do events, it's nice if you guys come out, the guys that are watching and maybe have already signed up, but more importantly, bring a friend, bring somebody else, because that's the way we get bigger. It's not just preaching within the bubble that we're in, is to expand that bubble and let people know what's going on. So by all means, if you can share this video, please do. Share the website, share the town hall videos that we've done in the past. That would be great. And I think with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thanks again, guys, for some great content. Mitch, you're not even at home. I can tell you're in a hotel room somewhere.
I'm doing my other business. The
one
that
pays the bills. Well, that's good. Well, thanks for taking the time out to do that. And Tanner, great to always have you on, and we'll definitely be able to catch up in the next couple of weeks and see what's going on with you. All right, and with that, you guys, everyone, thanks for watching, and we will, we'll let you know what's happening on the website. Please go check out the website constantly, as well as on social media, and just look up Alberta First Pension, and then the next time we do one of these, you'll know about it. And if not, and you're catching this on a replay, that's fine too. You just weren't able to ask the question, and that's okay. But you know what? Even if you're not able to ask a live question, put it in the comments, and somebody will get back on any possible questions that you may have. And with that, I'm going to say good night, everybody. Okay, thanks. Cheers.